Even though there are very few trees in much of the high country, the climate and environment makes it an excellent place for trees to grow, particularly the introduced conifers. And a past lecturer, professor of range management at Lincoln University once said that the farmers in this country have the choice between pasture improvement, which is what we see going on out there, i.e. to get grasses dominant, or the invasion of woody species. And in this case we've got a prize example where we've got very little likelihood of invasion in that improved area, but all around it in the unimproved area we've got, in this case, introduced trees invading rapidly. So the farmer down there, that area was covered in trees, but he's got rid of those, and now he's developing it, putting extra fertilizer on and grass seed so that he can carry more sheep, and with that combination of improved grasses growing vigorously and sheep grazing on top, he can get an income from that, and there's no way that any woody vegetation will invade that developed area. Introduced trees in the right and wrong places in the high country. In the foreground we have introduced pines, which are acting good shelter for buildings and livestock, no chance of spreading because of the intensively used land around them. In the background on the far slopes you'll see scattered trees, which are pine natural regeneration, spreading onto country where they are not wanted. They can interfere with conservation and landscape values, and maybe even if they were allowed to grow on the middle hills there, they would completely submerge those limestone tors, which are a major feature of the local landscape. What we have here is a classic high country scene of very little grazing, but introduced trees spreading into where they're not really wanted. And the wind blows from over this away, over that away, and on that far slope you can see a scattering of little dark upright conifer trees. In this case it happens to be contorta pine. There are islands there of the more olive-coloured, which is Mountain Beach, which has been there for centuries and is not really spreading. But the dominant upright element over there is introduced trees, and they probably arrived, most of them would have arrived 5, 6, 7 years ago. And the problem is, and by that stage they're just starting to comb, and the problem is that if they are allowed to comb, and they're only arriving there about every 10 or 15 years with a bigger wind event that's picked up seed from here, the problem is that if they're allowed to mature, they will produce a lot of seed which will fall locally, and it becomes a big job to clear. And eventually it would go through to the dense nature that we have at the bottom here, i.e. solid conifers. If we let them mature, we have an excellent example on the middle ridge where a lone tree has been allowed to mature, and on the right hand side of that, because the wind blows from left to right, there is a solid area of what we call fringe spread, as thick as hairs on a dog's back, and that would take days to remove, whereas the original mother tree could have been got rid of in 5 minutes with a chainsaw. But now, even if you did get rid of that mother tree, you've got all that fringe spread. So we're trying to clear that far slope before these smaller trees produce seed and produce dense blocks of fringe spread, as we see over there. Not all introduced conifer species spread, but in front of me here now we have an excellent example of 3 that are a major problem in parts of the high country. Behind me, over here, you can see the top of a contorta pine, and that is a species which has been listed as a weed species by many councils. It's the only conifer that has light seed, matures early and spreads vigorously. So contorta pine is our number one concern, and it's legal now to propagate or grow it. In front of me we have another species called mountain pine. It comes from Europe, and that one also spreads. You can see here it's got plenty of seed on it, massive production of seed, much more vigorously producing seed than it would be in its home country. And then behind us again, further in the distance, we've got the lighter green one, which happens to be Douglas fir. And Douglas fir is a very valuable timber species, but it also will spread seed quite readily onto extensively used or unused land. just come out from a stand of dense wilding trees. This all started from one original tree. So if that is allowed to produce cones like this one here has, you can see cones there, then a lot of seed is produced on the site and you get the dense sort of fringe spread that we're standing in here. Where if the tree is removed before it produces cones, such as this one here, stitch and time saving 9 means that immense production of seed on site doesn't occur. And trees like this are very easy to remove. I have here a little jacksaw, easily fits in the pocket, and you can get down low like that. And as quickly as that, the tree is removed. We have to remove all green foliage right down to ground level, otherwise it'll come away again.